Was it a vote for both?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Good, good. I didn't know if you're on Facebook.
You cracked me up. No, it wasn't Facebook. It was something else. I was just reading something and I don't remember what it was. But I'm like, gosh, I clicked on. Actually, I just scrolled. You were just right there.
Yeah.
And it was a vote for both.
Yeah. Well, it always sounds people see it. But
Yeah, I should add some the next time. Oh, I know.
But there's
You'll learn. It's easy. There's that board administrator. I don't know. I actually this is different to
I'm kind of assuming.
there's not much else there, so
No?
No, that's why you have an administrator. Yeah, in fact, I have your site. So much more.
Yeah, right. So different people would manage, you don't necessarily have to.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, Harry wasn't here hardly at all, just,
I was trying to get me to right now. I was out to dinner and I was
just when he needed to.
I was texting back and
Yeah.
forth. It's like, oh, you have your place now. Yours would be too, so.
Where you were,
I'd be real excited
I only know it
if
from.
it all worked out the way it was.
Where we stayed.
There's some people who
Not the big place.
I did, it's talking about the, Corinthians house. Norton, yeah. I saw the board, so I saw you, I paid attention to it.
I know, the old guy, with that little house, if you go just a little bit east of there. But then there's a barn, but then there's a little house.
It's not the one where it's a little privacy fence, like in a neighborhood driveway.
No, it's a little
I'm gonna pay attention, it's on the same side.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. But, so, we did. No. In fact, we, that one job, I don't know, they never, the Nortons, South Side before, never did anything. Yeah, that was us. Families? No, there's no room anymore. I thought there was a couple kids or babies or something too in there. And then that one is a doctor. So this is so he's got one of those caskets last time. That's
No, it's like a metal door.
yeah, no, we tried.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you got it. Oh, yeah.
Get out of here, don't do that.
Yeah.
My girls, for the third time, asked me about that this week.
Oh, my gosh.
So I told them about it, and now I've got more information. That's so cool.
Oh, yeah. It's so cool that it's rare. I mean, because it gives some individuality to the area. You don't want to be anywhere in USA like to turn to the
Yeah, right. This is not a little like, landmark, I don't know what it is, whatever.
Yeah, to the brush and the trees down. We took some down. They came and put in
Okay.
I think she donated it.
That's really great.
Yeah.
Yes. The bakers in North.
So this is kind of a light pack.
Where's the old town?
That's what it's for, right? So you could go in and look at the babies. through the
Okay,
window.
yeah, that one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's what it is.
our youngest is really, really active. He's Dr.
Just for you.
I might know him too.
Check out my shoes.
I have to think about this. But we should take him in there and finally this doctor, the emergency room doctor, they said, you need like a frequent pass or something, or you know, some, like the Joe thing, like you just, because David was in, honest to God, I would know the name, because it's like, something.
Now I need to
No, yeah, it'll come to me. I'm gonna grab that.
Oh,
Do you want one?
yeah, please.
Just by talking
You
about
do
it.
want
They're not even phones.
Is that today?
I got it.
Did you get two for us?
Does that make it like an air?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. I'm going to call the regular meeting for the Village of Camden Hills to order for February 21st, 2023 at 7 p.m. If the clerk would call the roll.
Trustee Capel?
Present.
Trustee George? Trustee McKelvey?
Here.
Trustee Millette? Trustee Muncy?
Here.
Trustee White Eagle?
Here.
Village President Tiro?
Here. We do have a quorum. For the board, Trustee Millette is going to be delayed due to the holiday. He's up in South Elgin giving his report as a director up there as soon as he's through doing here. If everyone would stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do we have public comments for tonight?
Yes, sir, we do. Charles Griffey?
Well, I think I'm gonna probably hold off right now because,
You want to defer?
yeah, I'll just.
Okay.
All right, no problem. Kim Yurt?
Yes, okay, I'm gonna use the mic, I usually don't, because I can use my outdoor voice, but, anyway, so, last meeting, I brought to your attention the use of the pronouns, specifically, the gender pronouns, in the, language that was proposed by trustee Capel to put on for the zoning ordinance. So, in the meantime, I've come up with an alternative for you, with some revised language, so if you'll indulge me, I'm gonna go ahead and read it. So it'd be the zoning ordinance, which is kind of like a definition, if you will, for the webpage. So, as property owners' use of their property is subject to reasonable limitations imposed by a zoning ordinance, these limitations are based on public health, safety, and welfare considerations. The property owner cannot disregard the impact of their actions on their neighbors or the community's welfare or prosperity. The zoning ordinance is not a temporary matter, but a crucial component of public planning that takes on a long-term perspective. While individuals may have the right to use land, the land itself endures long after they have gone. Semi-rural conditions may not only have immediate benefits, but also aim to preserve the resources for future generations. Thank you.
Holly Barron?
Tonight I'm gonna speak, is this on?
Just turn it off, it should be green.
Screen.
Check.
There we go. Tonight, am I out of range?
Tonight I'm going to speak about the outrageous and disgusting firing of our very well-liked village permit clerk. I have spent the last week and a half gathering information and providing daily emotional support to her. I am not just doing this as a resident, but I'm doing this because my own mother went through an extremely similar situation and killed herself over it. I was outraged to hear this news, especially after our president spoke at the last meeting on how outstanding of a job she was doing. 3 days later, she was placed on administrative leave. To me, the timing had everything to do with another resident's public comment that mentioned the hostile work environment going on here at Village Hall. She was the last remaining original employee in this current administration. Is this how they shut her up? Speculation aside, here are the facts. This employee received paperwork placing her on administrative leave on Friday, February 10th, stating that she was under investigation for misuse of the village computers and that she could have an attorney present at a required meeting Tuesday the 14th. Staff knew she would be out of town that weekend and had taken Monday off. This employee requested an extension to find and retain an attorney when she was back in town. She also requested her personnel file and a copy of the employee handbook to give this future lawyer to review. The administrator granted her only a 24-hour extension until Wednesday morning. Her electronic request for her personnel file was also denied. She wasn't given permission to come and review her personnel file until 2 hours after that required meeting. When this employee came in to get her personnel file, she was fired on the spot. One of the reasons stated on why she was fired was because she didn't attend that morning's meeting. She was told she had a right to an attorney, but it was clear she never had ample opportunity to even find one. I have personally reviewed not just her personnel file, the email evidence provided to assist in her firing, but additional evidence given to me by multiple people that spanned over the last year. Not only did she not have anything to do with the accused electioneering, but other reasons given in her termination letter were false or very much stretched by our village administrator. After reading all the documents provided to me, there were multiple village employees that were aware of her ongoing harassment, and they did nothing. In one text thread I saw, a very high up agreed that the environment at Village Hall was, quote, evil. There are many things I have seen documented that the board is just not aware of. Her own personnel file includes multiple reviews giving her 5 out of 5s. The board has the opportunity to correct this grave injustice. When asked about what she would like to come out of this, she actually just wants her job back because she loves it. She loves working with our residents and contractors despite the constant bullying. Sorry, I'm shaking like a leaf. You all know who I'm talking about here, and she is the epitome of the person that you want greeting people at a village hall. She deserves her job back. At the very least, she should be reinstated so that a proper investigation can take place. I believe this board will do the right thing.
Patsy Smith?
I'm disappointed that the IGA and Reclamite issues that I raised at the last meeting weren't on tonight's agenda. I still would like to know how you explain the discrepancy between the materials ordered and the material installed and the not to exceed amount of $50,000 on your agenda when you spent $63,000 for that material. I have a FOIA request in that's due tomorrow, and hopefully I'll get some answers to those questions when I receive that information. However, if there's nothing to hide, then why isn't this subject on the agenda and explained? It should be easy to show the paper trail if my assumptions and concerns are incorrect. I also noticed that you're approving tonight your regular meeting calendar. Well, I pulled down your regular meeting calendar for this fiscal year, and you still have Lord of Life Lutheran Church listed for regular meetings for the village board. Our previous village attorney would never have allowed that to happen. He would have had me notice this meeting, the February 7th meeting, and other meetings as special meetings. So I would highly recommend that you notice all the rest of your meetings as special meetings And until the new calendar goes into effect, since you're no longer meeting at Lord of Life Lutheran Church, I'd also suggest you look at the Open Meeting Act 5 ILCS 122.3, which outlines the required notices when you don't follow your calendar. By the way, it says authorized personnel. I happen to know the restrooms used to be behind that door, and I think someone should be making an announcement to the public if they need to use a restroom during the meeting, how they're to do that.
Any other public comments? Sir, did you, go ahead, did you want to take that opportunity, or are you passing? Yeah. Mr.
Yeah, I
Duffy?
would. I'm, is it working?
Did you need the green
But it's green.
Anyhow, I haven't really came to a lot of village meetings. I have been lately for the zoning, trying to make an attempt to come to the village to see if we can make things better. The more I attend these meetings, the more people I see are doing it, what I believe, strictly political motivation. I think you guys are doing a great job. I think you're being honest and sincere with us, and I appreciate for you doing that and to keep it up. Thank you.
Mr. Galucci?
I apologize.
I don't.
That's fine right now.
Well, good evening. I apologize for not filling out one of your comment forms. We don't normally do that at the township meeting. We just pull from the audience. But I want to say, President Terrell and board, thank you for having me. And just to go back, just a short, brief review. Back on September 6th, the Campton Township Highway District and this board and the president agreed to an intergovernmental agreement. It's in effect, it continues to be in effect. It will be until September 6th of 2027. We continue to do the work for the village. We've ironed out some of the issues with the IGA, and it's been working. I want to see the work continue with this board and with the IGA. I live in the village, so it's important that we continue with the work, including tomorrow, which could bring in some ice and snow and rain and all that mess that we had last Thursday. So we'll be back out in the morning if the weather's like that. So, and I think that's what's coming. I think more rain than snow and ice, but we're ready, and we will continue to be ready. And I just wanted to clarify that the only ones representing the Campton Township Highway District is myself, and if I'm unavailable, I have my foreman Ray Weber here, and he too represents the Highway District and myself. And just to let you know that Ray Weber and Denise weekly meet to discuss any issues, what's coming up, what needs to be done, and we continue that type of communication week after week. So we do, not so much with the board, but with administration, determine what's needed for the upcoming spring and summer and fall. And I just want to continue this and just clarify that we're happy to do the work for the village. Like I said, I live here, and I want to make sure that it's done correctly. And I've been in office for 23 years, and that's kind of what we've been doing all along, working with the different administrations and the trustees. So I appreciate your working with us and we working with you. I think it's beneficial to all of us to continue the work on our roadways. And that's all I have.
All right, Mr. Galucci, if I may step in. Items were brought up last meeting and resurrected again this evening about highway township documents that were presented that were claimed last week as having come from you or your office. I made the comment that that was inaccurate. The statement that was repeated back to this board is I talked to Sam this afternoon and I have paperwork here. Can you enlighten the board and the public on what that might have been? Was that documents from you or your office, and were they provided by you?
I believe some of those documents were from prior months back when we were still working out the IGA. And some of that was issued to, we had a representative that did work for the township up until the signing of the IGA, and then that relationship ended. And it continues to end. So I think some of that paperwork came from probably some months back that covers what you're talking about. I didn't give any paperwork out, and basically we're moving forward, and that's what I want to do. Put this behind us. Let's get it done. Continue with what we've been doing.
All right. And thank you for clarifying that concern and issue that did not come from you.
Correct.
Thank you, sir. All right. We have no other public comments? All right, I will call the public comment section for tonight closed. Before we get into consent agenda, it's not needed because this will just be a commentary that's listed a little bit later. But I will take the opportunity on a couple of matters. First and foremost, there were questions raised by this board last meeting about taping and streaming of our last board meeting. As a village, we endorse and support transparency. Under the Illinois Open Meetings Act, this taping is permitted. Okay? So let's be clear. However, it is generally an accepted courtesy for the person or persons recording to announce that that a recording will take place in advance. That didn't happen. I will tell you now that tonight's meeting is also being recorded. Okay? For myself and on behalf of the board, our hope is that in the spirit of transparency, that members of the public who will be recording do so in its entirety, and not like last meeting where a 10-minute segment of that recording was edited out. Okay? Let's be real clear, that subject came up. So we talk about transparency, but transparency is a two-way street. It is important that nothing be redacted. It's important that nothing be edited out if, in fact, the issue is about being transparent. I'd like to take also a moment to respond and address a public comment made at our last board meeting and resurrected again tonight. And that is in relationship to the two issues, Ms. Smith, regarding the village was not paying our bills to the township highway department, and that we owed them $60-some thousand from last May. The second issue, as was resurrected again tonight, is that the village exceeded its board authorization for the application of a road preservative known as Reclamite. This is to extend the life of our roads. So those are the two issues that we will take a moment with your indulgences and put to rest. With that, I'm going to ask the administrator to take it from there. If you would, for the public, if we can close that door for those members who are over on this side, you'll be able to see the screen. For the board members over here to your right.
Yes, in regard to the road and bridge account, what we put up here is an invoice from the township that we would use in the past, which just shows an amount due and an administrative fee, but and without any real backup.
If I may, and I will make this a question to the board and certainly point out to select members of the public. Would anyone pay an invoice of that size simply by showing a dollar amount and with no documentation whatsoever on where that money was spent? And that's a rhetorical question because I think I know the answer. That's the invoice that the member of the public provided and downloaded to a Facebook page with inaccurate and incomplete information. Now, let's show what a real invoice should look like. And it's the same month, I believe, correct?
Well,
Okay, so May, June, and July, they're all the same. They are generic with no documentation on where taxpayer money is spent.
So you'll see here, here's the June invoice with the backup that shows that the village will pay 75% of expenditures paid by the township. And so that's what we've been doing for this fiscal year, so.
So, just for clarity, so that is the issue that Supervisor Gallucci and I worked through. It was a matter of going through old documentation, understanding the requirements to meet proper audits, and that no municipality, no entity should ever pay an invoice for which there is not documentation on where the money is spent. I'm happy to say, as Commissioner Gallucci has pointed out, we came to that agreement. That old invoice was substituted and the proper invoice and ongoing will only be paid with proper documentation on where money is spent. Now, I would look at the public and again rhetorically ask the question, would any of you personally, professionally, ever pay an invoice for which there was no documentation on how your money was spent? And I think I know the answer.
And I think you should let me
Hey,
address that.
excuse me, public comments are now closed. We're going to continue on to
I'll be
address.
addressing this.
We've addressed the question. Now, we're moving on. What about Reclamate?
Okay. In regard to the Reclamite situation, I would just like to provide the facts on the situation. And on September 20th, the village board approved 2 resolutions to hire corrective asphalt materials to apply both Reclamite and CRF. These are roads to help maintain them. These products prolong the life of roads that have been more recently resurfaced. One resolution for Reclamite provided for a not to exceed amount of $50,000, and the resolution for CRF was approved for an amount not to exceed $32,000, which was a total of $82,000. When corrective asphalt materials went out to complete the work, they discovered that the roads they thought would need CRF, which was the more expensive option, was not needed, and requested permission from our village engineer to use Reclamite instead. Therefore, in the end, the village saved money by spending $19,107 for CRF, not $32,000, which was approved by the resolution, and we spent $44,608 on Reclamite, which was also lower than the $50,000 in the resolution. So both of these amounts were under the proposed not to exceed amounts in the resolutions.
We've also had, we've also had a challenge tonight. Do we have an answer regarding our meetings?
Oh, the website?
Yeah.
But we thought we fixed this.
And if it's not been corrected, we will take some notes and do it.
And the thing is,
This is the wrong page.
I will,
Well, this is the paper we have all our meetings.
This is the calendar you sent to the press that you're required to do by law. This is what I'm talking about.
I can send it to the press, yes.
This is it's the same thing you're doing tonight in tonight's meeting that you
Okay,
did
so
in your.
we will fix
So
it.
all of the electronics communications have been updated. Our websites are transparent.
That's not the.
Okay.
I will also add that,
That's the correct.
our
The new one.
village president, I will add that, our web manager, Nicole Fleshman Designs, she would be willing to confirm that the last 2 weeks we have had issues with, some of the content on our website. Some of it was completely erased. She had no idea why. She had to restore some of the backed up web pages, if you will. And she was having an issue with the calendar, and she was also having issues with a few of the electronic documents where they weren't storing properly, but we were able to bring everything back up. So if there is anything missing off of the website, that could very well be why.
I would simply state this, Ms. Smith, this is not the first, this is not the second, this is arguably the 3rd or 4th occasion for which incorrect, challenged information about the operations of the village or documentation has been presented by you, which is inaccurate and leads to the fragmentation of this village. As the founder of the village, I would consider that you have a great love and passion for it, but the continued presentation of inaccurate information to the public is counter to that goal. So I would ask you, before you go off, ask the questions. We are transparent. Anyone's entitled to any information that we have, and we're glad to explain it, but don't go off with half or incorrect information.
I should be able to find it on your website, and we'll see if I did it in the FOIA that I filed.
You got it. All right.
Just so you know, we did answer your FOIA today. We sent it to you.
I'll be glad to look for it. Thank
Okay.
you.
And I don't see Ms. LeBlanc here. I presume that the audio, I don't see Ms. LeBlanc here, so I presume that this is streaming to her website. And I would simply ask, in the interest of fact and transparency, that this data that has been addressed with accurate, factual documentation, and in response to the fiscally responsible approach this village has, that the new documents, or not the new documents, the documents that should have surfaced last time, are posted to that website. If we can, we're gonna.
Whenever you're done, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Does the village have control over its own website? Okay. Does the village have control over whatever the Facebook page is that's out there? What's happening in Campton Hills?
The answer is no.
I didn't think so. Do we know who has control over that?
The administrator is Kristen LeBlanc, and I think I can speak for everyone. A multitude of trustees present and not present have been on that Facebook page, and when they try and present factual information, they are cut off from participating.
Thank you.
Mr. McKelvey.
Yeah, glad that you raised that because this has come up a while back, and I just want to throw this out there, not for tonight, but for some future discussion. I know Trustee Muncy and myself were in the camp at one time, and I'm sure we still are, of doing our own Facebook page, because the most frustrating thing to me when it comes to transparency is what we have out there now that says what's happening in Campton Hills is what's happening in Campton Hills according to a couple people, and it's not everything. When I saw at the last meeting, I'm glad you raised it, that during part of it, they shut off the recording. So they're basically, in essence, editing it. I know they didn't technically edit it, but they stopped it and then they restarted it with the stuff they wanted to, and that's just not right. I'm sure your emails are full, just as mine are, from people that are on that site, and they provide me screenshots of everything that goes on that site. And so whatever's on there tonight, I will get tons of emails from people. Last time I counted, I had 38 emails from 38 different people who are allowed to go on that site. I am not, my wife is not. I had my son try to get on it, he was not, but I guess they had the wrong name. And I know in talking to some of my fellow trustees, they're not allowed to get on either. And you raised a valid point, Trustee White Eagle, and that is, we need to grab the microphone because it's our village. It's not a small group of people that can somehow manufacture what they think is the truth, but it's not the whole truth. It's only what they believe is true. And I think that's dangerous, or could be potentially dangerous, for residents in our community to get the wrong idea of what actually is going on. So I want to toss out, and I know there's probably dollars involved, and I know Mr. Muncy did a lot of research on this, but we've got to revisit it. Most other villages and municipalities and companies all have a website. You know, private America and public America have it. We should have it too. And we need to lose this idea that a small group of people, a very small group, if you read the comments on, there's like 10 or 12 people are the same names. But it's the silent majority that are on there that are filling all us up with what's really happening. So that's all I have to say.
I will take the opportunity for this board and the public. We have been pursuing some type of solution for quite some time. Our former attorney advised us of the pitfalls of having a municipal Facebook page. and the expense and the amount of recording that was needed. I have personally talked to administrators and mayors and presidents of those who are involved in Metro West. And yes, many have those sites. Many of them hire full-time information officers to manage that and more. The question being is, how safe is it? What's the value on it? And we will continue, and it's my commitment that we will move forward on that. When we know we have a site that can be safe, cannot be commandeered and altered. I've had 2 mayors tell me, if you don't have a Facebook page, don't. They regret having one. We have community accounts.
Point of order, please.
And we have
I
Facebook.
think we're getting off the agenda quite a bit. We have a trustee that has suggested that we look into this further in the future.
And I fully agree.
I agree with him as well. Let's move on.
All right, thank you. All right, moving on. Let's go into consent agenda. Consent agenda is a omnibus vote. Any item on the agenda can be removed.
President Terrell, I'd like to remove the February 7th, 2023 minutes from the consent agenda, please.
February 7th?
That's correct.
Okay. All right, and for full confirmation here, any item can be removed by any trustee. It will be removed to a separate vote. There is no discussion. Anyone else wish to remove any item from the agenda?
It hasn't been mentioned, but obviously we're removing the January 24th minutes as well because they're not available yet.
Okay. All right. With that, we'll move on to consent agenda B, motion to approve payments of bills per warrant list 23-14.
So moved.
Trustee, I'm sorry, it's 23-15 on the warrant list. Mr. McKelvey, do we have a second?
Second.
Trustee Muncy. Roll call, please.
Trustee Capel?
Aye.
Trustee George, here. Trustee McKelvey?
Aye.
Trustee Millet, absent. Trustee Muncy?
Aye.
Trustee White Eagle?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. I'll tell you what, as there's 4, just count me in as an aye. All right, we're going back to A. Mr. Muncy, you removed February 7th.
Yes, sir, President Terrell. The reason that I removed February 7th was just 2 really minor errors, but in order to make sure it's accurate, I just wanted to cover those. So in the electronic packet, on page 3, it's item number 3 under public comments. The description there says public comment cards are attached to these minutes. In at least electronic version, there are no public comment cards attached to the minutes, so I just wanted to specify that's one just error.
They will be there tomorrow.
Great, thank you. And then on page 5 of the electronic packet, item number 7 under current discussion items. This is probably maybe being a little too picky, but it said Trustee Muncy asked to update the fine structure. The fine structure was updated, that work had been done, it just didn't make it to electronic packets. That was the difference. The paper packets had it correctly. It hadn't been added to the electronic packet, so it was just identifying an omission in the electronic packet. That was all it was. Those are my comments I have in minutes.
So with the addition of those comments and edits, do we have do you want to make a motion with those comments included?
Motion to approve the February 7th, 2023 meeting minutes with the 2 edits that were just previously mentioned.
Okay, do we have a second?
So moved.
Trustee White Eagle? All right, and this is a roll call vote unless there's any additional discussion. All right, please call the roll.
Trustee Capel?
Aye.
Trustee George, absent. Trustee McKelvey?
Aye.
Trustee Millet, absent. Trustee Muncy?
Aye.
Trustee White Eagle?
Aye.
And Village President Tiro?
Aye, motion carries. All right, we're moving on to department reports. Chief, you're first.
Thank you very much. Luckily, the month of January was pretty quiet for us. The highlights that are in the packet that were given to you is we had 14 accidents, none of them at the same location. Most of them were just because people weren't paying fully attention. We did issue 107 citations. 28 of those were for speeding, other ones were for reckless type of driving, not paying attention, stuff like that. So that's a high number for our officers. We had 173 calls for services, and of those we had 39 incidents. Part of the incidents, we had 6 domestics, 1 was violent with an arrest, and we had 8 cases of fraud in this past month. So all around us, fraud cases are increasing, and the residents here in Campton Hills are not being spared. A lot of them are being done electronically. Some of them is education. So we're getting together and trying to figure a way to do some more education for our community, to not answer frivolous emails and text messages, but a lot of them are being done on their personal checking accounts and credit cards. So luckily for them, a lot of those are covered, and it's not going to be out of their own pocket, but we have had a couple that are hitting some of our residents personally. Without that, any further discussion on it, that's my report for our statistics, unless there's a question on those.
I would add, from the fraud standpoint, is there some bullets or some information we can provide to the public via community accounts and our website, which will raise their level of awareness and provide the proper cautions?
Yes, sir, that's what we're getting together and trying to get to our website. It'll be there before, hopefully next week.
Okay, thank you.
The only other addition I have is an announcement for the police department. Sergeant Levan, our K-9 unit, has put together a kids versus cops basketball game, just to get together with the kids and do some fun stuff. It'll be March 18th from 3:30 to 7, and I believe it's at Belgraham, but we will make sure it's on the website. It's either there or Wasco. So all are invited. It should be fun. I think we have over 82 kids signed up already to play against some of our officers who are completely signing waivers. So they'll be covered that way. So it should be a good time to get together and do some stuff with the kids.
Would you again repeat the day and time?
March 18th from 3:30 to 7. And I will apologize, under my reports, I have a chief award for Commander Ziegler, Officer Bertatelli, and for the Elburn Countryside Fire District. One of these subjects has the flu, and so we're going to postpone that, with your permission, to the next board meeting.
Okay. Any questions of Chief? Thank you, sir. Next is the treasurer's report.
Yes, I'm going to report our treasurer has been ill and asked that we give her till Tuesday to put the report together, and we can get it out to everyone here on the website.
I have a question concerning the treasurer's report, if I may. Should we be expecting at some point in the near future treasurer's reports and warrant backup files similar to what we received in the past? Will that be happening soon? There's been a little lag in us receiving those.
Yes, we will get more extensive backup reports soon. We're still trying to catch up from before. As far as the backup for the warrant, we hadn't been providing that before because of all the redacting that's involved.
I noticed this time because I wanted to congratulate them for something that I couldn't believe they got done that cheaply, but I couldn't see the receipt for how they did it. So that was why I didn't know exactly what happened. So sometimes I like to have that back to look. I don't know if that's going to be available again in the future. I understand
If the
it's a
village board would
transition.
want it, we could certainly do it again. We just found that, we have the backup, so if there was a question, we could always answer it. So, we certainly do it if that's what you would like.
I think if you've got the backups, these packets are getting very, very large, and I'm content with knowing that I can come in and visit a paper copy of the backup. But I don't want us to be doing work, you guys be doing work that a little bit it's not a strong opinion one or the other, but, spend your time, fishing.
All right, any other questions on treasurer? Moving on, then we'll move to building and zoning for January.
Yes, in the January, we had 22 permits, 12 were issued, 7 more were submitted, and 2 were completed. And a smaller flow of permits this month, of course, January.
Thank you. Any questions? All right, thank you. Moving on, items, agenda item 6, action items, A, motion to approve ordinance 02304, an ordinance approving a variation for the privacy fence in front of the corner yard of 6N347 Clydesdale Court, Campton Hills, Illinois. Prior discussion item.
So moved.
Okay.
Second, Cavill?
All right, we have a first and a second. Do we have any comments, questions? Trustee Muncy.
Thank you. The comment and question I have, I guess probably start with a question. There is a document that was provided on page 40 of the electronic packet, and in all packets, I assume it's right after Exhibit A, is a diagram which has a red line, which I presume is where the sound barrier would be installed, and then some distance measurements, which obviously are in excess of 20 feet, which is the number that was thrown out last time. First of all, I guess my question is this an accurate placement of where this sound barrier was intended to be placed?
Yes, I did have our zoning and DNF representative go out and check into it and look at the plat, and said that, that would be fine. And it does, the 20 feet was gonna cut right into his tree, his landscaping, so he needed to go around it, so he did ask for permission.
Okay, then I guess the comment, or maybe a question for the board, but my comment would be then, in order to approve this ordinance, we would have to revise section 5, numbers 2 and 3, to where, even both respectively, where they state 20 feet, those would have to be modified to read 35 feet.
Don't those say the northeast corner, the north or east corner? And so that would be the part of the barrier that is 20 feet. And the south and east is different, and that's 35. So I had to read it twice myself, but I thought the language was more specific to that northeast side. So.
And just for clarity on Trustee Muncy's question, so that the board is entirely clear, the discussion and the agreement last meeting to move forward was predicated on the petitioner's request for 20 feet. After our meeting, several days later, the request came back to modify 35 feet. So that's what the board now has in front of them and will approve, not the 20 feet.
It's not modified in the wording of the ordinance, though. It says 20 feet, and it's 20 feet to your point, Trustee Capel, sorry if I'm speaking out of order, but 20 feet is stated here from the north or east wall, or north or east sides of the residence. So it's greater than.
So, yeah, just for clarity, I'm sorry. For clarity, this is what the board acknowledged and asked that the document be prepared on. So if it's approved, or it's motion and second, it would have to be approved with the addition of that substitution of 20 to 35 feet, okay, that you amended.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wasn't comfortable making that change in the ordinance without the board, directing to do so. So that's why, if you want to change it to 35 feet, just make it an amendment. However, the way this was drafted was so that only number 2 would have to change, because as intended by number 3, and as I understood the discussion at the last meeting, that's about how long the fence actually is. The length of the fence shall not exceed 20 feet from either side, not how far out from the house it goes, which is what number 2 would address. So it seems to me like the only change that's being requested by Mr. Coffey is 35 feet in number 2.
I stand corrected, yes, Attorney Morton, now that I read it again, you're correct. Only number 2 will need to be changed.
Okay. So we have, unless there's any additional discussion, we have.
I have a query for council. I continue to try to get educated in this. You mentioned in the clauses that, this is still designated, you refer to it as a front yard. And later on, you refer to it as, you know, a front yard with a sound, or a backyard with a sound barrier. I'm just wondering, why is there any reference to the definition that this is occurring in the front yard?
I'd say, maybe I misheard you. Did you say that there's a reference to backyard in here?
Well, in the final clauses, you say something like, where did I see this? Sound barrier. I read somewhere in here that you had, I'm sorry, you had
I see in 3.1, in what would otherwise be considered his backyard.
Yes. So I'm just curious why the reference in the beginning to even that this is a front yard. What made you say that the ordinance had to have a definition that this was a front yard? Because we limit ourselves more, I think, by keeping the language specific, that this is being defined as a quote backyard. And then we're further putting constraints on the location of the sound barrier so that we don't get into this generalization problem that you talked about earlier. So it's more of a point of edification for me. Why the lingering language about a front yard when I thought we had kind of decided that this was a backyard?
So the section 5.1 that you're talking about, not 5.1, 3.1, talking about the backyard, that was put in there because of the discussion that you had at the last meeting to clarify as part of the reason why you feel this is a hardship is because otherwise this would be considered a backyard if not for the strict regulations of the zoning ordinance. The whereas clause at the beginning establishes what those strict regulations are, that this is considered a front yard, but because in your determination of the uniqueness of this property, that's where the hardship comes in. So it's not defining it as a backyard, it's saying it otherwise looks like it would be a backyard and that's why it's unique.
I'm just curious as to the actual process by which you define this area as a front yard. I'm still not clear on that. You say it's the zoning regulations, and I see the street address as being, you know, on the opposite side of the house. I see visually, aesthetically, it looks like a backyard, and when I read the zoning ordinances, I did not see what technicality would make this defined as a front yard.
Yeah, if I can help on that, and that was much debate through the course of the years. Our long-standing former zoning code makes that definition with graphic examples. It's in the code. That same code was adopted, or that same sections was adopted in our new code. So it is in the zoning code with those definitions. It has been long-standing and had to carry over to the new code. I'm happy to have staff or someone give you that.
It's something to do with the three-cornering or something?
Yeah.
If I may, it's the fact that the side is, you know, completely bordered by the street. It's not just where the street address is, where the house number is, but it's this other side is also bordered by the street, which makes it also considered a front yard. And I understand that you don't agree with that. However, I will point out that that's the reason for the variance. So in talking in the whereas clauses about why he's applying for a variance, it's for that reason. So I don't think it would make sense to not reference the front yard.
Okay, thank you. And I concur with the increased distance from the house on the southeast part of that. In the discussion I had after the meeting, I supported that idea.
So if there's no further discussion, go ahead.
Yeah, just one quick comment. I mean, this is gonna pass. I'm gonna vote no, but based on the fact of the training, having sat through that with the zoning commission, you know, it did not meet the criteria. And I understand where you guys are all coming from, so I get it, but I am gonna vote no on it.
Okay. So at this point in time, if there's no further discussion, we have a motion
I have
on.
one further thing.
Okay, sure, go ahead.
I do want to thank Attorney Gordon and the village administrator, if you also were involved in this, in Section 3, making sure it's clear this is pursuant to our previous zoning. And in Section 5, making it clear that this has to be constructed in the same manner, with the same materials, to the same drawings, everything that's already been submitted. So even if 5.2 or Section 5.2 were to be increased to 35 feet, it's only for the one section that's identified. It's not, you can move the whole thing. It's all has to be the way that it was. And again, this is all subject to a previous zoning ordinance, which we don't fall under anymore. So I don't see this as snowballing into many others. We can make individual decisions from here on out. Therefore, I like the way this is written, and I will be in approval of it.
Okay, any others?
So comment, Mr. President.
Sure.
In light of Mr. Trustee McKelvey's comment, I think it's important to point out a requirement of the zoning code, statutorily. These planning and zoning, the PCZBA, they recommended non-approval. To reverse that decision, you need the vote of 4 trustees. So keep that in mind before you call this question. It does not include the village president. It's 4 trustees.
Can I get a suggestion? Mr. Millet's coming, right?
Well, yes.
I don't want to delay this decision, so I would suggest we do. Right.
We believe he's coming, yeah.
Okay, well, we'll just wait. Is that fair?
All right, so at this point in time, I think it's trustee White Eagle has got a motion on the floor. Trustee Capella is a second. If you want to defer this item to later in the agenda, we can. Otherwise, it'll have to be tabled.
Let's defer.
All right.
I agree.
So we'll move off that, come back to 6A. Moving on, motion, item 6B, motion to approve ordinance 2305, an ordinance amending Title I, Chapter 4 of the Village Code of the Village of Campton Hills regarding the general penalty and administrative adjudication procedures. Again, an item discussed in detail at our last meeting. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Trustee White Eagle, do we have a second?
Second.
Trustee McKelvey. All right, any further discussion? Okay, as an ordinance, I'm gonna ask for a roll call.
Trustee Capel?
Aye.
Trustee George absent, trustee McKelvey?
Aye.
Trustee Millet absent, trustee Muncy?
Aye.
President Tiro?
Aye. Motion carries. 6C, motion to approve and consent to the village's reappointment of Laura Moore to the Community Relations Commission, term to expire on March 3rd, 2026. This is as a member of that commission, not as chair. So do we have a motion?
So moved.
Trustee Muncy, do we have a second? Trustee White Eagle, any further discussion? Let's take a roll call anyway.
Trustee Capel?
Aye.
Trustee George absent, trustee McKelvey?
Aye.
Trustee Millet absent, trustee Muncy?
Aye.
Trustee White Eagle?
Aye.
Village President Tiro?
Aye. Motion carries. Motion 6D, motion to approve the village calendar for May 1st, 2023 through April 30th, 2024.
So moved. Trustee Muncy.
Trustee Muncy.
Capel, second.
Trustee Capel, second. Any discussions, any corrections?
Yes.
Go for it.
In light of some of the feedback that we heard tonight, I think one of the things that I do not see on this document anywhere is a date. So if it would be possible to put a date on it, so adopted today's date, and if there's any revisions, I think it would be important to have revised and a date, because my sense is probably, I'm not sure, but probably that other calendar was published just like we're doing right now, and it wasn't maybe revisited. So let's just get some dates on this document.
And I would defer to the attorney simply because of meetings get sometimes rescheduled, canceled because of lack of quorum or material. What are the requirements of updating this document post-adoption as opposed to the front page of our website, which keeps current all of that calendar information? Is it necessary to come back and re-adopt this initial document each and every time there's a change?
If you're making individual changes, no. If you're changing something throughout the schedule, then it does require an extra step of notice.
Thank you. Is everyone clear? We have a motion, trustee Muncy, a suggestion has been made to add an adopted date to the calendar. Would you entertain a revision on your motion?
Yes, I so move to, approve the Village of Camden Hills meeting schedule calendar for May 1st, 2023 through April 30th, 2024, with a revision date added.
A revision or adoption?
With a revision date or adoption, with an adoption date added.
Sir?
Yes.
All right, you agree. So we have a first and a second as revised. Any further comments, questions? Please call the roll.
Trustee Capel?
Aye.
Trustee George absent, trustee McKelvey?
Aye.
Trustee Millet absent, trustee Muncy?
Aye.
Trustee White Eagle?
Aye.
Village President Tiro?
Aye. Motion carries. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Moving on to item 7, current discussion items. First is NICOR franchise agreement options. Administrator?
Yes, I asked that we just table this to the next meeting. I did not get the backup information that NICOR had told me they'd have it to me last week, so.
Just for clarity, there's no need for a motion to table. It's just, since it's only a discussion item, okay? Budget meeting schedule.
Yes, I just wanted to bring to the board, you know, we have to approve our budget before May 1, wondering if in the past we've extended our Tuesday night meetings. We started them early, that would be April 4th and 18th, or would you rather do it differently, you know, have a Saturday workshop, or just wanted to put it out there to see what you'd like to do as far as the budget. We also could meet March 21st and April 4th. Those are pretty much the options. March 21st, April 4th, and April 18th are the Tuesday nights that we would want to discuss budget.
Would, just for clarification, typically what's been done, works well, is finance, the treasurer, yourself, others, the staff who report in, have that all put together, and then it's, for those who don't recall or may not have participated, we come together, it worked out several years ago very efficiently, and then we get for a last meeting on the board, heads up, item by item. I think anything over $500 or $1,000 is reviewed, any tweaks are made then, and then at the following meeting, the budget is adopted. It'll come to you in advance, it'll come to you fundamentally ready to go, with the exception of any changes. So if you would give the administrator some direction. Doing it in March, I think, would be premature. Certainly the meetings in April would be ready to go.
I think that, the line-by-line review, which is exactly the way that we've done it in the past, with us, I can't remember if it was a Saturday. I feel like there was donuts at one point, I'm not sure, but it was something where we were completely focused on that item only, and then we had an opportunity to, talk about any questions in great depth, and then bring it forward. So, just one question about that then, if we decide to go that way, which would be my recommendation, late in March, just so we can get prepared for, getting out ahead of this like we've always done. You know, would that kind of a meeting be open to the public as well?
Every meeting's open to the public.
Okay, just wanted to make sure that we mentioned that, thank you.
So, the suggestion for a weekend as opposed to making a very long, normal board meeting, is that,
I'm okay with that. You know, I never done it in the past. I mean, I remember back in the day, we, you know, went till midnight. That's crazy. But I don't have a problem starting early, by an hour, and trying to do that. But I do think the whole joint meeting with the finance, line by line is the best way to go.
Trustee Muncy?
I'm in agreement with that as well.
Yeah, I'm fine with extended meetings, and I did find the review by the finance committee useful, and I think we did in 2 meetings. We had that extensive review, and then we had another consideration, and it didn't require a weekend retreat on budget. We got it done in extended time, so I thought that was very efficient, well done.
We've had some great success with that format over the last several years. All right, well, take some direction, work with the treasurer, finance committee, and we'll pick a late March as a target, and then communicate that to everybody well in advance. All right, thank you.
Just again, you know, knowing my work schedule the way that it is, I would much prefer to have an in-service, and I know Mr. Capel probably was gonna bob me on the head for saying this, but even if we could do something, if it's not on a weekend, maybe a Friday afternoon, just something that allows for focus time, just one topic, and is not wrapped into the rest of our regular meeting.
Okay, thank you. All right, item 7C, at this point in time on the president's update, I think some of my comments earlier would have been incorporated there, so I have nothing left to add. Parking lot, 90-day, do we have anything scheduled in the parking lot, anything that's ongoing? Okay.
I have additional information item that's ongoing.
There you go.
As long as the parking lot or, the HR Green Design Engineering Services, I'd like an update every meeting. We're trying to get this wrapped up to see what we can do, how could we can get bids out. Our answer last time was 2 months, which I'm not gonna second guess how they do their job, but I mean, the weather's been nice to get cores done, and you know, people aren't that busy doing that type of work yet. I'd like an update every 2 weeks, every meeting, to see how this is coming along so we can keep pushing.
All right, sounds great, thank you. Anything else? Okay, at this point in time, we do have some business, a couple of items for business on a closed session. Before we go into that, I want to come back to the agenda item that we deferred. Mr. Muncy is not yet here. We have an open item. I'm sorry, Willette, thank you. I got the right alphabet. Motion on item 6A.
It can wait till after closed session as well.
Yeah, I was gonna suggest, let's give him a chance, maybe we can text him and see if he's coming.
All right.
I would suggest we still defer, because we have to come back in open session.
If he can't be here, can't he call in for attendance via phone conferencing?
He's
For the vote?
currently in City of South Elgin business. That's where he's at. He's the director of public works there, attending and participating in that meeting.
I understand that, and glory to him, but I'm saying let's see if he can't text in his or phone in his vote at an appropriate time. He might be able to, if he's still in a meeting, step out for 2 minutes and hear the vote, and if not.
If I may, I think what the village president was referring to is that to be able to participate electronically, there's a limited number of excuses you can have. One of them is on village business, but he's not on village business. That's
On
not
village business.
He's in another village's businesses, so it wouldn't qualify under that.
So we have an option, we can defer it. I'll make a suggestion, it's solely up to the board. It's clear that this is likely to go through.
Just for clarity, I'm just a little confused, I'm slow, which I get, but I know we've had people call in the past, and they weren't on village business, so I'm a little.
I could be mistaken, give me 1 minute.
Because my understanding is, I know Wendy's been, Trustee White Eagle has called in, we've had a number of people in the past that have called in and voted, and I checked that, because I think it should be allowed.
The other thing that I was just gonna suggest is, it seemed like we needed to do a little bit of revision to the language anyway, number 2, number 3, to include, or change the 20 feet to 35. So what I would suggest is that, I think I made a motion, I'll pull it, let's bring it back next time with the right change, so that we can just do it once and be done. So I'll pull my motion.
Dr. Capel, you had seconds on that. Okay, so the motion's been pulled. We're going to make a motion to table to the next meeting.
So moved.
Trustee White Eagle, trustee Capell, any comments? All right, roll call please.
Trustee Capell.
Aye.
Trustee Georgia absent, trustee McKelvey.
Aye.
Trustee Millet absent, trustee Muncy.
Aye.
Trustee White Eagle.
Aye.
Village President Tyrrell.
Aye. Just for the record, it is all business purposes or purposes of the public body, so you're correct.
All right, motion carries. We do need to go into closed session on a couple of items. Usually trustee Millet is the individual who makes that call if I can.
I'll give it a whirl.
You want to try it? So,
I think we can pretty much read it, right?
right here.
Move that the village board go into closed session as permitted by the Open Meetings Act to discuss one or more of the following matters.
First one.
Appointment, employment, comp, discipline, performance, or dismissal of employees or contractors.
2C1.
And item.
No, you have to call out 2C1.
Oh,
so we're-
2C1.
Right.
Anything else? 2C11?
We don't have anything on 2C11, do we?
No, it's just 2C1.
2C1.
Great,
Okay.
2C1.
All right, thank you to the members of the public for coming. There will be no items discussed or voted on when we go back into open session.
Holly, you need your phone.